Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Financial Conflict Coach Show. I'm Dave Hilton, the Financial Conflict Coach. Well, I'm here today with Jill Suskind, President of WealthQuest for Teens Limited and the Executive Director of Your Teens Money Skills Incorporated. Now, the websites are wealthquestforteens.com and yourteensmoneyskills.com. Now, you can follow Jill on Twitter, too. She's there at Money and Teens. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Great to be here, Dave.
Yeah, so tell us a little more about your educational and professional background.
All right, sure. I am a high school teacher. I teach in the Boston area, and I've been teaching for 25, going on 26 years.
Wow.
And I've been working in the financial literacy area for almost 5 years.
So what classes did you teach in high school?
I teach English, and I don't teach financial education in school. We can talk about that. But
yeah.
I teach financial education as something secondary that I do and separate in my life.
Yeah, well, the reason I'd ask what you taught is my wife is a teacher as well. She's actually an elementary special education teacher, so I was curious what exactly you taught there. So what was it that made you decide to start these two websites and these two organizations, your WealthQuest for Teens and Your Teens Money Skills?
Well, actually, there's a two-part answer. The first part is that I was a person who always struggled with money. I never knew where my money went. It wasn't that I didn't have income, but I had no way of tracking it, and I was always broke. And when I turned 35 years old, I said, I can't take this anymore. I'm tired of being broke while my friends are having a great life. And so I started taking some courses and started to get some help. And I learned a great money management strategy, and I learned about basic money management principles and how wealth builders think. And I started to turn things around, and as I did, I was amazed by two things. One is managing your money well is not difficult. It just requires some education. And the second thing is how dramatic my life changed. And so I was telling my students, the second part of the answer is that I told my students that my life was changing so much because my money was starting to work for me. And what they said that I just couldn't let go of was, nobody's teaching this to us. Nobody in our lives knows how to teach this to us. And it just bothered me so much. I started thinking about it a lot. And it bothered me because I had had so many problems growing up and getting myself into problems with money. And it was so unnecessary because the education that's required to avoid those problems is not rocket science. Anybody can learn how to do this. And I could see my students all their future was all a future of money problems, like most of us actually experience. So I started to think, I could turn this around. I'm a teacher. I know how to reach teens. I know how to make an impact. And I know how to take something that seems mysterious and complicated and boil it down and put it into a format that reaches teens, engages them, and impacts them in a meaningful way. So I started developing a program, and that led to the website, and then I started thinking about parents' roles in all of this. And I started thinking, really, if I want to change teens' lives, it really has to be a partnership with parents. And that's what led to Your Teens Money Skills.
So, and I don't want to make the mistake while we're talking today. I don't want to make the mistake of constantly combining the two websites as though they're one thing. So, if I ask a question that is more tailored to one and not the other, just kind of let me know that. I only mention both websites since you do both of them. So when we talk about the overall mission, I mean, you're executive director of one, you're president of the other. So let's first start with WealthQuest for Teens. What would you say the overall mission of that website and that program is?
The purpose of the WealthQuest for Teens program is to provide parents a tool that they can give their teenagers that provides that education that parents are looking for and that teens are looking for. And that's the site where I talk about what the program is, how it operates, how to access it, and that's just the educational piece that I offer, that I've designed and offer for teenagers.
And so then whenever you move to Your Teens Money Skills, what's the overall mission for that one?
The purpose of Your Teens Money Skills is to provide parents with resources, advice, guidelines, ideas, and a general sense of, and an opportunity for parents to go to a place and get really good ideas about how to be a good parent in this area of life.
Now, you mentioned on your website that your parents spent a lot of time trying to teach you about money. So, and that's a really difficult thing for a lot of parents to do, which as you said, is the reason for one of those sites there. So what kind of tips or suggestions, I mean, what is I would say, the most asked question of parents whenever they say, okay, I really want to teach my teen how to deal with money? What is the biggest question they ask you?
Well, a lot of people ask me questions about allowance and how much and when should kids get more or less, or what should they be accountable for with their allowance. But surprisingly, a lot of parents don't ask questions about it. A lot of parents are very reserved about the whole subject. Mm-hmm. They think that it's something that should be kind of protected like a secret, and right. It's very private, and we should just keep it at home and, you know, kind of live under this idea, well, I'll do what I think is right and stand by that and not talk about it and not hear more. So that's one of the things that the barriers that I'm working hard to break down.
And I can well imagine money is one of those subjects that has, I mean, so many emotional aspects to it. And you wouldn't think so, considering money itself is a man-made concept. You wouldn't think that something that we create would have such an impact. I mean, not only emotionally, but physically on people. Just whenever you start talking about money, you can literally see, and one of my specialties is, you know, is essentially reading body language. Just the way that people react when you even bring up the subject of money. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. So I can imagine whenever you're talking to a parent about their kids and asking them, you know, well, what are you teaching your kids about money? I can see that. I mean, that's almost as taboo as sex was in conversation, you know, 10, 20 years ago.
Exactly, and it's really a great parallel to draw, because as a society, we found that, you know, we can teach sex ed at school, and we can talk, you know, we can give kids books to read, but nothing is going to replace open communication between parents and their children. And in order to make that productive, we have to have an open conversation about that as a society, so parents can really have effective, meaningful conversations that make a difference with their teens about sex. And so now it's time for us to translate what we've learned about that to money.
Yeah, and you know, money it's not necessarily, and I think and correct me if I'm wrong just from your experiences, but my experiences dealing with families when it comes to money, especially when you're talking about generational differences and just talking about money, I found that a lot of parents think that it should be private only because they don't want other people to know what mistakes they've made.
Exactly. It's a real source of embarrassment, and it's very sensitive, and it's until we can, all of us, get a hold of ourselves and say, you know, I'm not going to allow this to be a sensitive subject anymore, we're going to keep producing generation after generation of people who lack financial education, who lack financial management strategies and skills, and we're going to continue to think that the whole problem is in the government and in the banks and in the, you know, is external, that the problems are outside of us, and always find somewhere to blame. While in the meantime, we're not really taking care of what's going on in-house.
Right now, and as I was preparing to talk to you today, I started reading some articles about this particular subject, of parents talking with their kids, because by the time that that people get to me for me to work with them, the conflict is so, I mean, just so strong, and people have their positions set out, and they're not even willing to talk anymore. So I get the extreme side of seeing this type of financial conflict when you're talking about parents and kids, or even generation-wise, families dealing with this type of conflict. So I see them only after years or months or whatever of arguments and disagreements and things like that. So do you think, and a lot of the websites that a lot of the articles I were reading had suggestions of, well, personal finance should be taught in schools. Do you think that that's the answer to this problem?
I know I'm a maverick. I don't know where you stand on this. I would love to hear. But if we think the answer is always outside of us, we're never going to really get any kind of powerful solution here. Schools can teach about money. Mm-hmm. They can teach high-level concepts about mortgages and interest and insurance and things like that, and how much things cost and all that. But that is never going to change how people relate to their money. In the same way, we teach about nutrition and health and physical exercise and all of that at school, and our nation continues to grow fatter. I mean, school is not the place to look to solve our personal problems and the things that we have to take care of personally.
Yeah, and I actually completely agree with you. I think that's just they're just looking for a scapegoat. That way, if their kids end up with having money problems in the future, they don't have to blame themselves. They can blame the school system for it, rather than their inability to understand the concepts and teach them to their kids.
Right, exactly. But I think too that there's such a mysteriousness around money, and there's so many closed doors about it. People don't talk about it. That simple money management strategy seems like a big mystery. When it's very, very simple to organize your money in a way that makes it so that it becomes a tool that funds your life. And there's nothing embarrassing or sensitive or anything about it. Everybody can follow a money management strategy that works. We have to start talking about this so that we can dispel all of the myths around it, and we can start so we can start to produce generations of financially literate people.
Yeah, I mean, I know that my wife and we've spent a lot of time interacting with our kids and teaching our kids not only basic personal finance, but also, what happens when something like a recent story that happened in our household. Our washing machine, it died, and so we had to go out and spend money on that. And it was also around the time of my son's birthday. And I was so proud about the fact that he understood that because we had to go out and spend several $100s to replace the washing machine, that he wasn't going to get as big of birthday presents as he normally would have gotten. And most kids would have thrown a fit over that, but somehow we've managed to, and I knock on wood, if I could find some real wood to knock on, that it'll stay with him, that information will stay with him. Because now let me ask you this: do you find that parents don't talk to their kids about money, maybe perhaps because they don't understand the concepts themselves?
I think there's a part of it is that we're all kind of walking around thinking we have a big secret. We manage money the way we manage it, and we hope it's kind of the right way, and we want to make sure other people think that we know what we're doing. And so it sort of protects and keeps in place this ignorance, this problem that we really don't know how to manage our money well, but we don't want other people to know that. But I also think that one of the biggest problems that I just think is the most important thing for us to talk about is that there's not a template, there's not a formula, there's not some agreed upon set of standards that we can all agree that a parent who's doing their job in this area is following. What I mean by that is I've talked to parents and say, I think parents should teach their teens about money. And parents will say to me, oh, yeah, I've got that all covered. And I'll say, well, what do you mean? And some parents will say, well, my kid had a summer job last year, and they saved all their money, and they bought a car. So we're good. And I'm thinking, well, this parent thinks they've taken care of business, but that's not money management. That's not preparation for adulthood. That's just saving your money and buying one thing. That's what third graders can do. It's just bigger numbers, See, parents don't have a sense like, for example, if you want to teach your kids dental hygiene, so you teach them to brush their teeth in the morning, brush their teeth at night, go to the dentist twice a year, don't eat too much candy, and you're doing your job if your child is doing those things. And we all sort of agree on that. But we don't agree as a society of parents. What does it mean that we're taking care of teaching our kids the skills and understandings that they need in order to be highly functional adults in the area of money? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I have many personal finance blogger friends and acquaintances that I interact with very, very often. And, I mean, the biggest argument is that if you look, let's just say, if you were to look out there on the personal finance world, if you look at all the blogs that are out there, there are blogs for people in their 20s. There are blogs for people in their 30s. There are people who want to retire by 40. There are websites out there that recommend that you do use credit cards. There are other websites that recommend that you never, ever even touch or consider using a credit card. There are some that say that having a little bit of debt or certain kinds of debt is good, and then there are other websites that say that all debt is evil. So there, as you said, there is no set amount, or set, I guess, foundation, if you will, of personal finance, and I think that's why they call it personal finance, because it's all about what you have, what your interests are in your life.
Right, and the problem is it doesn't really fly when you try and implement it. And that's what we did with your team's money skills. We developed a 5-pillar comprehensive approach to parenting in the area of money with teens. And we have invited money experts, parenting experts, financial education experts to write for our blog. And all of the articles are connected and organized around these 5 pillars. Mm-hmm. So parents can look and see, am I doing my whole job? And they can check, are they really learning about each of these 5 pillars?
Yeah, because the way your website is set up, I mean, not only do you do, how money works and just money management in general, but then you get down to the point of wealth building. And I think that right there, I mean, that is one of the biggest subjects that a lot of people skip over. They talk about, save a little bit of money. They say try to make as much money as you possibly can and not spend more than you earn. And a lot of people just stop there. But wealth building, I think, is overlooked in a lot of cases.
Right, exactly. We often think that we're doing our job if we make ends meet. And that's not what we want to teach teenagers. We want to teach teenagers to be wealth builders. And so we have these 5 pillars that we wrap all of our topics around so that parents are making sure that they talk to their teen about money. And we have several things that we want to make sure that parents hit upon when they talk. There are specific conversations that are important to have, and there are specific, and we want to make sure that parents and teens have an open dialogue about money, so there's talk. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is parents and teens. We want to make sure that parents are teaching their teenagers to give 10% of their money to a cause that matters to them, so that they're experiencing themselves as people who are engaged in the world and making it a better place and experiencing themselves as leaders in the world. And then the third pillar is practicing good money management strategies, not just saving for one thing or not, overdrawing on your debit card or something, but specific money management strategies that we teach. And then we want to make sure that parents talk to their teens about opportunities to learn about money, so that parents aren't the sole source of information and education about money. We want to make sure that, wealth builders are always learning about money from lots of different sources. We want to make sure that that starts with teenagers, because there's lots of different opportunities that teens can take advantage of and learn about money and start that habit when they're young. And then the fifth pillar is to make sure that kids are developing healthy habits of belief about money, so that they don't get wrapped around these ideas that greedy people are wealthy, or that money has something to do with being shallow, or that, if you're a person of substance, then you shouldn't talk about money. Those kinds of things. We want to make sure that those kinds of attitudes about money aren't festering or developing in teenagers. So those are our 5 pillars: talk, give, practice, learn, and align belief.
And you can actually get more details about that. That's one of the first things you see, actually, when you log on to yourteensmoneyskills.com. Now, something else I saw on your website has to do with the fact that whenever you were teaching kids, and whenever you talk to your kids in the class about money, that it seemed that their biggest concern was how much money they would make. They thought that if they had a big salary, that would translate into being wealthy, and I found that is not even close to being the case. I actually spoke not too long ago in front of a group of kids who were going through a government-sponsored program called Upward Bound, which I actually went through when I was in high school, that gives high school students a chance to get college credit while they're still in high school, low-income students, to get that college credit to kind of get a kickstart into college. And I was talking to them, and I was kind of talking to just about my career and what I've been doing and that kind of stuff, and it seemed like every question that they had was based on, well, how much money am I making and how much stuff do I have? But then I found myself, after they kept asking those questions, transitioning what I was talking about into the fact that, well, yeah, I have a primary job, but I have multiple streams of income, different sources of income. Just in case I lose one, I'm not completely screwed. I actually have other opportunities out there. So, I mean, how important is that in your program, teaching multiple streams of income?
Well, I have this program through WealthQuest for teens that teaches that kind of that part of the education. So through WealthQuest for teens, I offer a 4-part program. The first part is a video workbook online program for teenagers, and it's a 7-module educational video that's narrated by teenagers. It's really fun to watch, and it's interactive because kids work through a workbook as they go, and it's very personal. It's not informational. It's about people's lives and what they think and what they see for themselves, and how can they start to understand money is a tool for having the life that you want. And in that program, we focus a lot, one whole module, on 3 sources of income, and how important it is to understand that there are 3 kinds of income, that there's salary, and there's portfolio, and there's passive income, and wealth builders understand all 3 kinds.
That's very cool. Now, I know you've done seminars and things like that in the Boston area. Do you travel across the country and do those types of things, or are you primarily doing things on your website now?
Well, when I started this in 2008, 2007, sort of around then, I started thinking I was going to be a live seminar leader and go around the country and lead seminars for teens. And after my 12th seminar, I realized that this is really not the way to go about this, because I could have teenagers for 3 or 4 hours and have a great time with them and have them completely lit up. But they were going to go home then, the parents that had no idea what they had learned, and it was all going to disappear. So what I did was I took that live seminar and I created a video using teens as narration, and we covered it with fun B-roll images and music and stuff. And so that's online now, and it the accompanying piece is an ebook follow-up guide for teens on how to implement the strategies in their lives. And then there's an ebook for parents so they can support their teens in working through all of this, so they understand exactly what education they've been exposed to, and they can be part of that. And then the fourth piece is they have a link to a moneytrail.net, which is an online virtual money management system, and that they can log into for free and manage their money exactly using the strategy that they learned in the seminar. So I don't do those seminars live anymore because I really wanted to come up with a product that was going to work in people's homes, in families.
And it's very convenient because you can do it at your own pace. If you need to go back and watch it again, you can, just in case you miss it. Because, humans, we just have this habit that whenever you're in the middle of talking or hearing about something, your mind will wander. You can't control it, really. I mean, it just happens. That's the way our brains are wired. And so, I mean, if you miss anything, something with an online video seminar like you've done, you can just go back and rewatch that if you didn't quite grasp what the first time around.
Right, exactly. It really works well. Kids love it.
So you can actually do that, and you can go to WealthQuestForTeens.com and get more details about that. It tells you everything that you get from it as well. And I mean, it's very affordable, and everybody that I know of, they say it's very, very easy to use, which something tells me you did that on purpose.
That's what I set out to do.
Yeah.
I set out to offer something that was great for teenagers, ages 14 to 19, and for kids who are committed to thriving in life, and they get this financial education that really allows them to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? Money doesn't have to be that difficult. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused, they get upset, they get anxious even talking or discussing money because they think that it has to be difficult. And teaching your kids about it doesn't have to be that difficult. And Jill, you're one of those people out there on a mission to make sure that kids understand more about money. Well, do you have any other kinds of projects, services, products, or anything else that you want to mention before we wrap up today?
Yes, I just have one thing, and that is I'd like to invite all parents of teens to go to yourteensmoneyskills.com and vote yes, that they're a parent who's committed to raising teens with great money skills on the voting poll. The mission of that specific poll is to gather 500,000 votes so that we can tell parents through the media that this is becoming normalized, that parents are talking about this, that parents are taking this on in a meaningful way, and that we're tired of the old strategies of secrecy and passing on poor money management strategies and keeping it all in-house and telling everybody that everything is fine, that this is something that we're all committed to shifting, and so we want to gather as many votes as we can.
Very cool. All right. Well, we definitely have to make sure the parents go on there. In fact, I'll have to go out there and do it myself. So, Jill, I appreciate it. Appreciate it again. Thanks for coming on the show today. And be sure to check out the websites, WealthQuestForTeens.com, also YourTeensMoneyLife.com, and I'll put links to both of those down below the video here. You can also follow Jill on Twitter if you'd like to. She's at Money and Teens. If you have any questions or comments for me or for Jill about anything we discussed in today's episode, or if you have topic or guest suggestions for future episodes of the Financial Conflict Coach Show, please leave them in the comments down below. I also encourage you to sign up for my VIP email list for exclusive content and other bonuses on my website. You can do that at financialconflictcoach.com. If you'd like to email me, you can send that to coach@financialconflictcoach.com or follow me on Twitter. You can find me at Money Conflicts. Thanks for listening.